Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today we're reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 28. Let's focus on verses 12 and 13. And he dreamed, a stairway to heaven was set on the ground with its top reaching to heaven, and God's angels were ascending and descending upon it. The Lord was standing there beside him, saying, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham, and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your offspring the land that you are now sleeping on. Now, anyone who has been in a music store over the past 30 years is familiar with the opening melody of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. And if you have ever been in a music store, you have no doubt been privy to countless bad renditions of it. Now, had they lived in the days of Jacob, perhaps Led Zeppelin would have written Ladder to Heaven, who knows? The description of Jacob's dream is one of the most vivid biblical images of the Lord and his angels working on the face of the earth. It's like they're clocking in and clocking out, right? We're watching the shift change. And it's like knowing the whereabouts of that door where Disney characters enter and exit from the theme park. They just sort of magically appear. We know they're coming from somewhere. Well, it should be noted that the angels are first mentioned ascending the ladder, going up. And that observation has caused some scholars to speculate that the angels had been accompanying Jacob the whole time that he was away from the promised land. But now that he's coming back home, they're finally now returning to the Lord. And it's safe to assume that Jacob was without any human friends. But unseen, there had been angels by his side to protect and to encourage him the whole time. Isn't it comforting to know that the Lord has commanded his angels to watch over his children? But not only that, he himself watches over us. Abraham is mentioned as Jacob's father because both Isaac's blessing and Esau's birthright now rested with Jacob. Jacob was the direct recipient and the conduit of God's promises to Abraham. And there is a great lesson concerning God's faithfulness here. God's guarantee of fulfilled promises was dependent upon God's character and not the character of the patriarchs. He swears by himself, and therefore the promise is not dependent on whether or not they'll mess it up. We know that he never will. Jacob was a deceiver, and God would soon test Jacob's mettle, but the Lord knew what kind of man that Jacob would become once God's work in Jacob's life was completed. And I hope that you're encouraged by this truth, that God's love for his children is great enough to lead them through hardships just to mold them into inheritors who would live up to the character of his name. You see, if you are suffering through a time of molding and stretching, you should be encouraged. Asleep or awake, God himself, in addition to his angels, is ever present. That is, whether we're asleep or awake. He's always awake, and he's always personally there for those who are his children. You say, how do I become a child of God? John 1, verse 12. But as many as received him, to them he gave the right to become children of God, to those who believe in his name. Hebrews 13, verse 5. For God said, I will never leave or forsake you. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Now, Groundworks Ministries operates entirely through financial donations from faithful people just like you. If you're not donating to Groundworks Ministries, would you start today? You say, I don't know that I have much. You know, $20 a month goes a long way. And yes, we do need your monthly support. Donating is secure and it's easy at our website, groundworksministries.com. You know another way to help? Tell people about Groundworks Ministries. You can share these podcasts with your friends and family, post them on your social media. Of course, you can always direct folks to our website, groundworksministries.com.